Good evening, everyone. I'm happy to be here for Quilt-Cam tonight. Last week we had a little episode where the sound quit partway through. I wasn't anywhere near the computer. I didn't touch anything, and yet the sound died. And all of these emails coming in, there's no sound, there's no sound. Is it me? What did I do wrong? How do I get the sound? Sometimes things happen, and Google Hangouts and YouTube are free for us to use, and sometimes stuff just happens. So even a second try at re-embedding the feed into the blog still left me with absolutely no sound. And I know because I rebooted the computer and tried again that it was not my laptop. So this afternoon, after getting home, I did a second little nervous little test. Is the sound going to work? Is the sound going to work? And when I saw the little green lights going across the bottom of the screen telling me that, yes, we have audio, I knew we would be good for Quilt-Cam tonight. So I'm really, really excited to be here. Let's cross our fingers and hope that everything stays on, that it doesn't go off the way it was. So what did we get done last week? I worked on these little garlic knots blocks. You can see they're really kind of cool. It's based off of a 16 patch format, like a 16 patch block with some modifications where seams have been removed and things like that. This block is featured in a 2014 issue of Quiltmaker magazine. If you don't have that on your shelves, you can likely find it on the Quiltmaker website. Digital copies are available, so you'll be able to find it there. And then as I finish this project, who knows, you might find it on the website. I just need time to make more blocks. And I've cut out some parts through my short strips and cut some sections. These are center sections. I've got a stack here of various colors. These are like the main fabric. These are the ones that are the two squares in the center. I've got a stack of neutrals over here, and we're working things. I think when the sound went out last week, I was talking about how the pressing goes, and I was just working on my first few blocks and found that, oops, things aren't nesting as I do strip sets and try to figure out which way to press. I found on these, it was better for me if on these certain sections, I pressed towards the light so that I could press towards the dark in the center of the other section. So some go out, some go in. Now I'm watching the feed on the screen, and things are kind of lagging here. So I don't know what the deal is. I am hardwired into my modem so that we have better internet, but we just had some really mighty storms rolling through North Carolina today. In fact, Sadie was an absolute mess. And I mean, really thunder, downpour, crazy storms. And that does affect my internet out here in the country. I have cable internet. It's under the ground, but it still gets affected by weather. So we'll do the best that we can. First time joining me on Quilt-Cam, I want to welcome you. Quilt-Cam is something that happens where we sew from my studio. I'm working on my own projects. This is not a class. This is not a tutorial. Make hints and help and tricks that you can apply to your own quilt making along the way. But I am not here really to teach you anything. I'm here just to sew along with you, and you can work on whatever you want along the way. If you have any questions for me, you can feel free to blog in the comment section where this is feed is embedded, or you can leave a comment on YouTube if you're watching there. You can send me an email if you want to send me a photo. Quiltville@gmail.com. That's QUILTVILLE@gmail. And that way photos can get to me. It's about the only way to get photos to me. There's also a blue guest book button in the left-hand side. And those comments go from the guest book. Those entries also show up into my email. So that's a roundabout way to get to me. But by far, the best way is to email so that your post comes to my email. In fact, people are emailing already, so hopefully but you have no sound. There's no sound. Let's see. Okay, So yes, I'm a little bit away from the computer. In fact, in order for me to type anything, I've got to come this close. So everything that I do is from my phone as far as comments goes. And I'm checking the email tonight to see what you're up to. So I have a very, very bad confession to make. I am very, very cautious over making sure irons and things are turned off before I go anywhere. And after last week's Quilt-Cam, I was so frustrated with trying to embed that feed twice and having no sound that when we finally threw in the rag and threw in the towel and called it a night and said, it's just not working tonight, and I was frustrated and I turned off all the lights and I went up to bed, I left this little iron on, hot. On, hot. This does not have an auto shut off. This is a little vintage iron. So I get home from the cabin today and I'm getting ready to do a little bit of sewing here at the machine, and I'm feeling this heat source off to my side. I left for the cabin on Thursday morning. Quilt-Cam was last Wednesday. So it was on Wednesday night, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. A week. This iron stayed on for a week and it didn't burn my house down. Now this should make me feel really terrible, and it does. And it does. But it did not burn the house down. So although I will be very, very, very much more cautious. In fact, somebody said to plug a light, have the iron in a power strip and have a light in the power strip. And if the light is still on when you leave the room, that means the iron's still on too. So I may have to do that, or you can get one of those timer box things that if you have a vintage iron that does not have auto shut off, if you have it plugged in to that thing, it will automatically, you just set it for like 10 p.m. or whatever, so that the iron will auto shut off at the end of the day. And I'm thinking that is in my future as I get older and more forgetful. Left the iron on, thought I was flying to Michigan tomorrow, which I'm not. I'm flying on Thursday. Yes, my Sumtimers is in high hyperdrive, and that just means that I've been really, really busy. So while I'm done, now that I've had confession, and you can all tell me that you've done it too, here's an email from, ooh, pretty, pretty, pretty. This one says from LA Quilts. There's no name attached. She says, just completed my first string quilt. And she's sending a picture here. Oh, this is diamond in a string. Oh, this is great. So it's diamond in a square strings. This is one of the free tutorials that's on my website under the free patterns tab. And look, it matches my shirt. Great job. Isn't string quilting just the most fun ever? If I didn't have these other things going on, I'd be doing more strings. I do strings every chance I get. I just love them. That border fabric is perfect too. Great job, whoever you are. So if you send me an email, if you don't have a signature line attached to your email, please type your name so I know who you are. This one's from Melissa, who says, woohoo, so happy for Quilt-Cam tonight. I'm working on a quilt for a young nephew. It's a pattern from a magazine that I've modified along the way. Now I'm not happy with part of it and having to remake some blocks. Please tell me I'm not the only one who does this. Why can't we just follow directions? Because that's no fun. And that's Melissa in Cibolo, Texas. I think because, and well, this is the same reason why I don't just design my quilts on the computer, because what you design on computer or graph paper, whether you're drafting it out or whatever, and the page is this big, right? By the time you get it into full quilt status, it just might not do what you think that it's going to do. And sometimes our math brain is not in gear. So that figuring out, oh yeah, this looked great here, and I thought this math worked, and now maybe my triangles are too small or whatever can be a problem. But go with it, because this is how we learn things. You are having to remake some blocks. But you learned a lot in the process. You learned what not to do. You learned what you didn't like. And I think we have to allow ourselves the privilege of making some really glorious mistakes along the way so that we learn something. So where I am tonight is I've got two pieces here. This is where the sound ran out. I didn't touch it much after. So I've got this section and another identical section, and those have been left in the machine as leaders and enders. When those two come through, I will be adding these two rectangles. As I was explaining last Quilt-Cam on this block, when I first designed this block, I'm going to find one that's a little bit bolder so that you can see the colors better. These are all kind of, oh yeah, that one will do it. Okay, much brighter. When I first looked at this block, my eyes focus at the 4-patch on the center. And I thought it was a 4-patch with units all around 4 sides. And then I looked at it again. And the way that I actually constructed this was with these first 4 squares being a 4-patch, identical to this bottom 4-patch here. And then this unit was like the start of a half log cabin block. It was a square with a rectangle, 2 of those units. So you have 2 different units twice, and that gives you this block. Well, there's another way to do this. And as I looked at this, I realized that if I looked at, let's see, which I have to figure out which way this is. Okay, turn it this way. If I wanted to strip piece this, I have light square, dark square, light square. And down here, light square, dark square, light square. So 2 units of that. Dark square, accent, dark square, accent, dark square, 2 units of that, and 2 side rectangles. And that's the way that I've decided to construct this, completely different than how I did it for the magazine. So I've got my little rectangular strip sets here. I'll be getting 2 cuts from this. Strip piecing and subcutting is far more accurate for me than just sewing squares to squares. And then this is the other one. And yes, this is the infamous circus man acrobat fabric, where there's a whole lot of torso going on in this fabric. And I know, it's hysterical. I look at it and I laugh because, okay, this guy really has the Tony Orlando, remember Tony Orlando and Dawn? Mustache and hairdo going on. I don't know what vintage this fabric is. It's not a current fabric. The fabric feels, I mean, it's cotton, but it feels like it's maybe a 1970s cotton or something. Hysterical. So I'm using this as my light, and I've got these guys as my dark, and I'm going to do some strip piecing. Can you guys see what's here on the table? I like to strip piece things as much as I can and use each block as a leader ender for the other. And I've added some length into these little strip sets so I have room to square up before I make my subcuts. So I usually work with 2 blocks at a time and have the first block just far enough ahead of the second block that as one block is being completed, the second block is in the works, and then you lay out a third and get it working so that they're just chasing each other's tails. Okay, so those 2 will stay there while these guys come out. So here we are with the two strip sets, and you can see what I was talking about earlier, how this top row I had to press towards the light so that this row I could press to the accent square for that to work. It's not always possible to press everything to the dark all the time. And I'm almost afraid to turn this iron on now, but I'm gonna. I can't believe I left it on. Don't tell the hubster, he'll shoot me. Okay, so we've got these. Now, if I make both of these identical, and I'll add those rectangles to the other side. Do you see how this one can come around and become the bottom half of this one? But you make both sets identical first. So now these rectangles will go on. So sometimes there's more than one way to get that block built. And you can find yourself making 2 different units, which would have been okay, 2 different kinds of blocks, 2 4 patches and 2 of those little squares with sides. Or I could have started with a center 4-patch and gone all the way around with parts. But I think this way is just slicker than slick for the same thing. Okay. So I'm reminding myself I'm pressing this one to the light, to the circus, guys. Woohoo! That was a whole lot of torso. They even have little curly hairs on their chests. It's so funny. Come to think of it, maybe I shouldn't be putting this in a baby quilt. Okay. Okay, so now these two are done. And I'm just pressing those out. That seam looks a little bit skimpy, but we'll see. Okay, so now these two halves, when one goes upside down against the other, we've got our block. It was faster for me to sew it this way than to build it any other way. And the seams all match up nicely. Okay, now these guys, I hope you're working on something. I know I'm not answering a lot of emails. I just wanted to get this process down for you since we missed it last time. So now I have my two strip sets, right? These can be matched right sides together with those seams nesting, and I can cut my two sections with these pairs matched and ready to go through the machine. So I'm going to do that right now. I even brought my little cutting mat. When I'm working from small units like this, I like a small mat, but I also like a small ruler that fits the size that I'm working with. For this height set of the height of this strip set doesn't require me to have a 12-inch long ruler or a 24-inch long ruler. This little ruler has become my best friend. It's a 2.5 by 6.5. Absolutely love this little guy. And I'm going to give it a nice cut here at the end. So this is the only thing that slows me down, is I have to stop and cut these. But when you want each block to be different and you don't want any blocks to repeat, the only way to make a good job of it is to do short strip sets. Okay, so not a whole lot of waste, just a little bit. I like to give myself about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch longer on my strip sets. And then we're going to send the guys through the machine. Seams nested. And we get the finished block out. All right, let me give that an iron press. And there's one more garlic knot block for the stack. Do you see how interesting that was to piece that way? Actually, it went this way. So this was the first two sections with the side rectangle, and the other two sections with the side rectangle. Works so slick. Okay, so let's check on in here. This one says, Quilts of Valor, can we, the general public, place bids on the auction? Oh yeah, Quilts of Valor auction. So I don't have the full information. All I have is the address that I'm sending this off to. This is the, here it goes this way. This is the Quilt of Valor auction quilt that is going off to benefit Quilts of Valor. It's going to be shown at the quilt show in Des Moines towards the end of the month. And I'm sure that you can, if you can place bids. What I don't know is if they're taking bids just, I think you have to be there in person to take bids. It's the auction to raise funds for Quilts of Valor. So this is my Winston Ways block multiplied 4 times and borders added for a quilt that measures 30 inches. On the back, I did use some scrappy Americana fabric just for fun, leftover 4 patches. And yeah, I ended up, you know, they said, please make your label pretty. Well, I don't do pretty. I put on a corner and I put the information on it that I want. And all it says is Heart of Valor, designed and made by Bonnie Hunter, Walberg, North Carolina, 2016. That's got to be enough, because they didn't tell me it needs to be pretty till yesterday, and this needs to go in the mail. So I will see if I can find out any further information on the show and where it will be. All I know is it's in Des Moines at the end of the month. So if somebody has that information, would you email it to me and I'll read it out loud to those who are interested. There are several other quilters who are doing quilts for this auction, and you could own a piece of our piecing in your home if you place the right bid. And just know that everything is going to charity. There are no proceeds. The designers are not being paid to do this. We are giving generously of our time and our stash for this cause. Okay. So where were we? Picture of a quilt top, your pattern. I love watching your Quilt-Cam. On April 16th, I went to Elizabeth City, North Carolina's Day of Sharing. In that show and tell, someone did your pattern. Here, I took the picture of the quilt top. I was excited to see it. Oh, and it's a scrappy Bargello. How fun is this? And it's all in Halloween fabric. So that's scrappy Bargello, 2.5-inch strips, easy piecing, no triangles. Total fabric annihilation. That is a heck of a lot of fun. Beautiful. I love it. Okay. It's too early to think about Halloween yet, isn't it? We're going to go way down to the bottom because I know I missed some. This one's from Nola, who says she's packing. She says, this big one is fabric. The little one is for clothes. I'm leaving in the morning. See you Friday. So, Nola. So the big one is her fabric, and then she's got this little itty bitty tiny thing here she says is her clothes. But we know when we're retreating that clothes are not as important as the fabric. However, this is the Grand Hotel. They don't do denim after 5 o'clock in the dining room. So we do have to dress for dinner. And I'm packing like 3 pairs of pants, and all of them, if I just put a nice top over them, I have a black pair and a gray pair, and I haven't decided yet either navy or khaki. They're just going to be all-purpose whatever, pretty blouse on the top. If you put the bling up here, nobody notices that you've worn those same pair of pants the night before, right? Nobody notices, because I'm not packing 7 different outfits to do this thing. That's hysterical, Nola. Okay. Laura O'Leary, baby growth chart. She says, please send a shout out to Pat Martinez. She made this gorgeous growth chart for my baby Marissa. She is pretty advanced for being new to quilting. She made this from beginning to end, even quilted it. Let's hope she becomes a fellow Quiltvillian, because scrap quilting is the best. And this is really, really cute. So there's her baby growth chart with all of the fun little appliques and things on there. That baby is going to love this for many, many years to come. That's wonderful. So if you have a baby growth chart like this, I suppose as you measure your child, do you write on there in like fabric marker, you know, what the age was, what the date was, what the height was, and stuff like that? That would be a really neat keepsake. Adorable. Really cute. Okay. This one is from Lynn, who says, here's my Tumblr quilt, loves your books and patterns, and this is really bright and fun. I love that. So she's done her tumblers in a zigzag. My tumblers are at a standstill. I just working on too many things and have thrown other leaders and enders in there, but we're getting down to the wire where this leader ender challenge needs to become a finish by July. So only a couple of months to go, and we'll be pulling out our new leader ender challenge. I love those jelly bean colors that she used for hers, darks and lights in a zigzag setting. Beautiful. She didn't have to match any seams that way. Isn't that fun? Gorgeous. Alrighty, Yvette says, hello from Perth. So Perth is awake this morning, saying not watching live today as you are bang in the middle of my work morning, but I will be watching tonight as I have a mountain of binding to get through, including Aliatare. So piles of pretty quilts make me happy. And this is Yvette, and she's sending a pile. Oh, and I see the Aliatare at the bottom. So this is all of the binding to be done. If I turn it that way, there you go. So that's Yvette's binding pile to be done. I love binding. I finished one big quilt, one small quilt, and got part the way around a second big quilt over the past 5 days. I save all of my binding for evenings at the cabin. Oh, love those. Susan Erler says, Quilt-Cam, yay. I had a frog in my throat. Excuse me. Either that or, you know, there's flying bugs around here now. And now that it's dark, I've got a window air conditioner. You can see just barely. There's a window air conditioner over there. Oh, I go like this. Okay. So it's impossible to have those airtight. We have put as much weather stripping and as much everything around that as we can. But these daylight bulbs on the ceiling attract everything. And we live in the country. And so, yeah, I get bugs in here. So where was I? Thank you so much for having Quilt-Cam. I appreciate you trying again. You know, you're never a failure until you quit trying. Google Hangouts has been having problems lately. My fiance lives in Indiana, and until we can get together permanently, we have dinner together every Saturday night through Hangouts. That's very cool. We got no sound the first 2 times we tried, and we had chipmunk voices on the third. 4th time was a charm, and it worked. So that lets me know, too, that last week's disaster was not me. Things just happen and we deal with it and we try again later. What I will usually do is give it a second try. And if anything happens and the screen goes dead, give it 5 minutes and come back to the blog page, refresh the page. And there will be a second new feed. I can't continue on with the old feed because it's done. When it's done, it's done. You have to go in, log back in, start a new Hangout, get the code, embed it in the blog, and this all takes me about five minutes. If it doesn't happen, I will usually post on Facebook or on the blog again. Sorry guys, tried as many times as we can. It's not working. See you next time. But you have to be able to refresh the page to get the latest update. If you just sit there and wait for me to come back and nothing happens, it's because you didn't refresh the page to find my update. So she says, so lucky with your iron. I hope your electric bill is okay too. This reminds me of the cats. Did you see that YouTube video about the people who wondered why their water bill was so high? And it's because the cat would flush the toilet, hop onto the seat and watch the water swirl in the bowl. And then when water filled all back up again, the cat would flush the toilet. Yeah, I don't know how much that iron pulled, but maybe it'll even out with the fact that we haven't had to run our air conditioner really or our heater over the past few weeks. So don't tell the hubster. She says, finally cutting fabrics for Celtic Solstice tonight because I finished my Aliatare and it's on her bed. So here we go. I'm going to biggie size this just a little bit. So she's got her Aliatare on her bed. Congratulations. I'm really excited because this is the time of year when I really start spinning my wheels on what we're going to do for the next mystery next November. And this is going to be a tough one to top. This is going to be a tough one to top. Maybe we'll go easier. Who knows? Maybe, who knows? I just have some ideas. Need to work them out. Okay, so one more. Quilt Praise at Yahoo. This is from Sherry, who says, trying to get this quilt top ready for the long armor. It's a gift from my sister who is celebrating her birthday today. She knows about it and chose the pattern and colors. It has a couple of borders, so still plenty of work to do. Happy quilty evening from Sherry in Steamboat Springs, and she's going pink and black and white, and wow, isn't that going to be fun for her sister? I think that's going to be really, really nice. Let us know what it looks like. I'd be anxious to know what you decide on for borders. That is so graphic. Very fun. Okay, let's get some more stitching done here. So we're back to this point again. So I need to choose, let's see, something with 3. This is cute, little daisies on purple. So if we lay these 3 out and pick a color for the middle, maybe this limey green. Ew, no. Sometimes it says yes, sometimes I will choose something that is not even in this fabric. What, you don't have to match colors in this exactly. I just want to put something against it that pops and that's kind of fun. So let's do that one. Okay, and then we need some background rectangles. Those are the short ones. And these are the long ones. So this is all it takes me to do that block, is 3 longer rectangles and 2 shorter ones. Chipmunk voices, really? That's so funny. But I'm glad to know it was not me, because I was really thinking, oh no, my computer's died. There's no sound. Okay, strong men are going to get their end rectangles. You know what they say about ugly fabric? I don't think the strongman fabric can be cut small enough. And you see how each block just becomes the leader ender for the other one? Press that one towards the light. If I had time to kit up about 100 of these, it would be a great take-along project. Because even with I can finger press these to the point where I really don't need an iron until the whole block is done. So here's our 2 the same way. You see that with the rectangles to the left? And if I turn this one upside down, there's our block. So super simple. Strong men and all. Oops, you know what I forgot? I was so eager to sew that I forgot to add the second strip to this one. This orange piece says, it was a Mr. Potato Head fabric. I love carbs. I love carbs. I love carbs. 1 hot potato. Don't make me put, I can't read what it says. Something funny. Okay, so now I'm sunk. I'm out of my rhythm because I got this in a different spot. So we're gonna do a cheater leader ender here. Because I had these timed perfectly. I like it that way. Okay, so here's this one. Ta-da! Very fun. Okay, so we'll get this one ready to slice. And that's the only thing that's going to slow me down here. But with these pieces this small, and if I had everything kitted up and in little Ziploc baggies, do you see how easy this would be as a traveling project? I love feeling those seams just nest with each other. We'll just get this cut and then we'll check the email wagon again. Adding about 1/2 inch to my strip sets leaves me enough room to really trim things up nice before I cut my sections. If I'm doing a long strip set, I'll add a full inch just because shift happens. Yeah, so that's it. That's all the excess there. And my trash can. Okay. Well, we got all these emails. This is so cool. Miss Jill Churchill, come on down. She says, thanks for squeezing in Quilt-Cam. I've been cleaning my sewing room for 2 hours, and I'm the only one who would notice the difference. High five, girl. That's awesome. You are my reward for my hard work today. I'm sewing strings tonight. So that's Jilly at Tada Quilting Studio in Lake Erie, Pennsylvania. So glad to know you. Rhonda Harvey says, Quilt-Cam, I did the same thing. I left my little side iron on. When I discovered it, it scared me. So I leave myself a note. Yeah, I will have to leave a note. Hey, Sadie, come here. Come over here. Somebody coming in to see us. Come over here. Come here and say hi to everybody. Can you jump up? Come here. Come here. Oh, you've been out in the rain. You're wet. Come here. Can you say hi to everybody? Everybody, this is my Sadie girl. And she's 10, and she freaks out at storms. She doesn't mind. She loves to be outside unless she hears the rumble of thunder, and these ears can detect a rumble of thunder before it's audible to anybody else, and then she just goes into the shaky, freaky, crazy bit, and then she won't leave your side. So she's been glued to me all afternoon, but she must have gone outside to go potty because she has little raindrops on her. Good girl. Good girl. Yeah, we love that girl. She's just been the best dog ever. And I know everybody else says they've got the best dog ever, but you know, we're pretty partial to our Sadie. All right. I love this machine. I really do. These old eyes, it's getting harder and harder to thread needles sideways, like on the most vintage machines, the class 15s, the 301s, the featherweights, the 201s, whatever it is, they either thread right to left or left to right, and you have to put your head down on the table and look sideways to thread this thing. 500, straightforward. They moved the bobbin from the side to drop front, and you can thread the needle straight on, and that's so much easier. So much easier. Doesn't mean I'll give up on my side threaders, but I love this when I get to work on it. Okay, so cheater, leader, ender can go away, and it's time to pull in the next block. I'm thinking, what do we have here? We'll do blue, because blue is cool. So one of my people that I follow on Instagram, oh, there's some really fun stuff going on Instagram, offered a scrappy challenge of the week with a color to focus on for that week. Now that's really difficult for me when I sew scrappy everything, but I wanted to play along, and this week's color is, I'm thinking it goes Monday through Sunday, and then Monday starts the next color. Blue. So I've cut up some blue scraps, even though I'm combining them with everything else. I'm still considering myself, yes, I'm playing. And let's match blue with, what can we match blue with here? Blue with green. I think that's okay. And those are the short guys for the other guy. So we'll do this. Here's 2 rectangles. And once you kind of figure out, there's my 2 short pieces for that one. Ready to rock here. You know, I was trying to think of all of the different ways that I could set this block. Whether on point or with sashings or as an alternate block or whatever. And I think that I just want this one block to block to block to block to block to block and just let it be, because all of the seams are going to nest. No worrying about sashing. Just make blocks. Cute, cute, cute. Adding the little side rectangles. You know your seam allowance is in the right spot when the rectangles you're adding are exactly the right size for where they need to go. That's kind of your gauge check right there. If your rectangle's too big, then this seam is too big, okay? If your rectangle is too short, then this seam was too narrow. Fix the seam. Don't go whacking off the units. And here we come around again. And that seam was, speaking of too narrow, I'll show you because I'm not that far ashamed. But can you see that my first seam was way too narrow? That makes a difference. If you multiply that distance by 2, that's how much bigger my unit would have been than it needed to be. My seam was too narrow, so I simply just re-sewed it. Simple. I would rather re-sew it than trim it down later to the size that it needs to be. Okay. And this is the magic part. This is where 2 identical units become a top and a bottom. So fun! Wouldn't this quilt just, they kind of look like bows on Christmas packages. So if you did this in, you know, Christmas colors, it would be really kind of fun. All those fun Christmas fabrics that have been sitting around forever. Okay. Each block takes very, very little fabric. And here's this one. And we'll check the mail again. Oops, got to get that fakey leader in there. So I made the mistake of leaving my tumblers up at the cabin, so they're not even going to Mackinac with me. But I do have Gail bringing me a machine. And along with the blue theme of the week, sew up that color of scraps. I cut a bunch of half square triangles in blue and neutral, and I'll put those together while up there. Is that cute or what? This is so cute. This is garlic knots. I believe it was from the February 2014 Addicted to Scraps column in Quiltmaker magazine. So they may have a digital version available out there. I don't know. I haven't checked the website. But this is why you need to have a subscription and just keep them in the library, because while they don't look really cute on the page, you don't really see, you know, the scale on the page. Once I start making these in real life, you'll go, oh yeah, I want to do those. That's where that pattern is. Okay. Very cute. Top of the list here, Lynn Diamond, garlic knots. How big are the pieces in the block? Would love to make. Find the issue. Find the issue. This is for a future project, so I'm not giving sizes. The pattern is in Quiltmaker magazine. Digital copies should be available on their website. Monique says, Quilt-Cam, you might have the best dog, but I've got the worst. I'm not ashamed to say so. He has chewed on several of my quilts. Oh, Sadie was a quilt chewer too. You know, I'd have a folded quilt at the end of the bed, and this is when she was we got her when she was about 9 months old from a no-kill shelter, and she would chew the fold on the quilt, sometimes just, you know, the folded corner, and you'd open it up and it would look like a snowflake with these holes out. She eventually got over it. She has not, it took about maybe, no, I'd say a year. She had to be about 2 by the time then we wouldn't let her near any quilts whatsoever, but she She got over it. So you say yours has chewed on several of your quilts. Thanks for sharing your spare time with all of us. And this is Monique from California. Monique, I don't know. Can you put Tabasco on the quilt and you know, or if you choose the quilt, put it on his tongue? I don't know. What would you do to stop the dog from chewing the quilts? How are you going to get it through his head? You know, dogs are burrowing animals, and they're nesting, and they like to tear up bedding to make their nest that they're going to sleep in. And that's what Sadie was doing. There were chewed up blankets on the floor of her kennel when I got her. And I guess she thought that all the quilts were just more bedding for her to chew up. It took a while. It took a while, but she doesn't chew them now. She knows what no means. Here's a 16-year-old just doesn't get it. This is the subject line. 16-year-old just doesn't get it. This is from Leslie in Connecticut, who says, thanks for squeezing in Quilt-Cam. My 16-year-old daughter is laughing at me because she can't believe I spend my nights sewing and watching Quilt-Cam and enjoying it. Yes, she just doesn't get it yet. Tonight I am sewing binding on 2 pillows, which will be donated and used as a raffle prize at a tea fundraiser. The pattern is Cute Cups from Lori Holt's Quilty Fun book. Thanks for sewing with us tonight. And that's Leslie in Durham. You know what? There's a lot of stuff that teenagers are into that we don't get either. Like, let's not even talk about their music, okay? Or the fashions. Don't get it, but this is our own quilty pleasures here. So she doesn't have to get it, because that means she's going to leave you alone while you do it. Glad you could join us tonight, Leslie. Sherry Whalen says, irons. Yes, I have left my iron on. Scared me too. I have simple, inexpensive elastic bracelets that go with my non-shut-off irons. When they are plugged in, I put the bracelet on. When they are unplugged, the bracelet loops on the handle. This is awesome. This is terrific. So far, this has worked for me. I see the bracelet. I know I need to check my iron. I also have one that is plugged in with a light. That works too. And this is Sherry in Minnesota. Something's got to happen. Something's got to happen. Even if it's as simple as a little light that's plugged into the power strip, and that you only use the on-off on the power strip to turn things on and off, that would work. But I could have burned the whole house down. Goodness. So here is Annie Isaacson from Sioux Falls. I'm just curious, what antique store did you hit in Sioux Falls? Okay, I was coming up, I believe it was it 29? The interstate that comes up from Sioux City up to Sioux Falls. There is an antique mall right off one of the exits where I stopped to get my car filled with gas about 7 miles south of town. I don't remember the name of it because I didn't buy anything there. I just took a stinking load of pictures, but I don't have a receipt or anything that would give me the name of the antique mall, but there can't be that many. It's kind of an industrial looking area, and it's right across the street from the gas station truck stop where I filled up my car with gas. There was that Mariner's Compass there for $90. I hope somebody snatches that up. It was a late 80s, early 90s. Beautiful work, just beautiful work. You know, I think we have to wait a certain number of decades to pass before something from any era becomes collectible or popular again, but that quilt was absolutely beautiful. She says, I'm working on some hand applique since I worked at the machine most of the day. No pictures yet. I'm enjoying Quilt-Cam tonight. Thanks, Annie. Glad you could tune in. Debbie says, Debbie Hanks in New Hampshire, this is the start of my new quilt for my bed. Gonna be a big one. And don't you love it? She's getting rows put together already. I love the chain and pinwheel effect that she's got there, and the colors are going to be yummy. Is this to match an existing color scheme that you have for your room, or are you changing things up? I have neutral walls. I'm one of those that likes neutral walls. I don't want to paint my walls green or turquoise or whatever, because as soon as I get them that way, I'm going to want to change my mind. So I just change the colors of the room by either changing the curtains, which is cheaper than paint, less effort, or you know, changing the quilts on the bed, things like that. Changing the accent colors will change the room for me. So maybe I'm boring, but I'd rather be down here quilting than painting the walls, you know, what do they, with the kills or whatever, to change from one color to another color. Time to pick out some more. So what do we got 3 of here? Oh, yes, let's do this one. Here's, I think this is a Christmas fabric, but I think it's awfully cute for any season. Red polka dots on black and little snowflakes and snowmen and stuff in the little snow globes. And then we get to pick a color that goes with. Nah. Nah. Yeah. Yes, I think so. I think this is like one of those Civil War repro floral thingies, and then Christmas, but it's going to work. It's going to work. Trust me. All right, got to pick some background here. Nope. Sometimes you just put something up against something else and you just know whether it says yes or not. So I don't do the brown paper bag routine. I put something next to something and it either says yes or no, and I listen. Okay, short pieces. Short pieces of this one. Okay, so that's those ones. All right. And the first ones come off. I'm going to move these over. We're going to cut strip sets. These need to iron. Isn't matching fabrics and choosing which fabrics to go next to what part of the fun of quilting? I love the picking and the choosing and the trying and deciding. And I love this little ruler. This is a Creative Grids that I got at, I think you can see it says on there, Stitch in Heaven. When I was teaching there this past January, they handed those out to all the students, and it's just the handiest size. I had the air conditioner on in here before Quilt-Cam because it was a little stuffy and humid. I turned it off when Quilt-Cam started. I'm regretting it now. It's getting a little sweaty in here. This is cute. I love it. Working this way with just 2 blocks at a time keeps my production up, and I will be able to have a completed stack of blocks by the end of the evening, where if I were chain piecing the whole thing, I might just have sections that I'm going to have to take the whole chain to the ironing board and deal with. I often just work with 2 blocks at a time, 2 sections at a time. Short chains allow me to see my progress. Okay, so here's this one, the blue with the green, not so shabby. And you'll notice that not a single pin is being used in these blocks. If it's a straight nested seam, I can hold those seams together with my fingers as it goes under the needle. So unless I've got triangle points I'm wanting to match, you'll rarely see me using a pin unless something has to be eased in to make it fit. Alrighty, so that's that far. Now this one's ready to cut apart. Don't you think that blue is cute with that little Christmas scene? Do we care that it's Christmas? No. What color is it? It's black. Okay, that's all that matters. Annie Isaacson says she thinks it was tea. I don't think it was that far away. I don't think it was that far south. It was like 7 miles from the airport was all. And it was before I got off the main interstate. I wish that I should have taken down the name. I should have taken a picture out front. I didn't. It's in kind of an industrial area. It was a fun little antique mall. Okay, this one is, here's my baby quilt fabric we got in our day of sharing in December. It was donated by Connecting Threads. And this is from, says Ivy. I think her name is Ivy, at least the email address says Ivy. That is beautiful. So she's done a baby quilt in bold colors with a stained glass effect. I think that is very striking. Nice job. I like the quilting on that too. That's going to hold up to a lot of washing. She's got it stippled fairly close. Nice job. Rhonda Harvey says, photo of note to plug on iron. I think I forgot to send my photo. Oh, yeah. Unplug the iron. I know. It's nice to know I'm not the only one that did that. Oh, and it's got that face on it. Too funny. I suppose that, you know, if you locked yourself in the sewing room with the door lock on the door and the doorknob said turn off iron. Mary Crowther says, I have some timers too. I wanted to show you what I made. My daughter won't be watching, so it's safe to show you. Oh, how pretty. So she's done some embroidery on tea towels. Happy Mother's Day. So yeah, Mother's Day, I'm going to be gone. Going to be up in Mackinac. And the hubby was really sweet about it. He said he was trying to arrange his flight from New York, because I fly on Thursday and he flies home from New York on Thursday to come here. And he said, well, what if I changed my flights and just came up to spend the weekend with you at the Grand Hotel for Mother's Day? And I said, sure. And he checked into his flights, but his flight gets into Detroit too late. He'd have to catch the last flight to Pellston from Detroit. By the time he gets to Pellston, the last ferry has already run. There's no more ferries again till morning, so he'd have to spend the night in Pellston in a hotel motel, catch the first ferry over to the, and so it would really cut his 3-day weekend short. He's got to be back to New York on Monday. So best laid plans, thought that counts, rain check for Mother's Day. So we'll do that Mother's Day in a couple of weeks. She says, internet is so fun. This is Teresa from London, Ontario. Glad to see you back. I was just trying to Skype with a friend, and that wasn't working tonight either. It still beats carrier pigeons. That's for sure. I haven't been scrappy quilting lately, but have been finishing some UFOs, so that counts, doesn't it? Of course it does. I really like your Celtic knot blocks. I'll have to put that on my to-do list. I don't want to call it a bucket list. That bucket is already full. Have a happy quilt night. Thanks, Teresa. Glad you could tune in tonight. Laura Schmidt says, laughing daughter. Wonder if the daughter that was laughing at her mother watches YouTube for makeup or nails. What's the difference? I love Quilt-Cam. Thanks for all you do. And that's Laura Schmidt in Kansas. We all have stuff that we watch. Pat Kilmaine, who I will be seeing on Friday. Excited. I use a nightlight plugged into a strip. I do turn the strip off, but try to remember to unplug it as well. Glad nothing happened. So yes, this will maybe, you know, before before I turn off Quilt-Cam, and this is what I usually do. Okay, I'm turning off the iron now, and now we'll end Quilt-Cam, which is what I've done in the past. But when Quilt-Cam did its freak out with no sound, it kind of disrupted the whole thing. We'll blame it all on YouTube. Okay. Army Brat. So this is my hi, Army Brat. Christy says, our friend Sharon introduced me to that size ruler. And when I thought I'd lost it, I searched high and low for another. Turns out they are specialty order only. The Vermont Quilt Shop Hop gave that as a gift when a passport was purchased. But how about a Quiltville one? I'd order one from you. And you know what? I was thinking the same thing, because the only time I've ever seen these is when they have, you know, the shop name on here. So having it say quiltville.com on there would be awful awesome. I think so. So maybe I'll check with them in doing that. I like this size. This is back when Creative Grids had very, you know, doable numbers. Now the numbers are huge, and they're big and white, and they're black, and they're everywhere, and you can't see where you're measuring by. But this small numbers, I love. So I think, Christy, that's a great idea. I've been thinking about that, but you just pushed it to the forefront. And somebody else also said you need to do t-shirts. And I'm like, oh, okay, but you got to figure out, you know, how many of each size to order. And somebody's going to want from extra petite to quadruple extra large, and you can't do everything. But I'm thinking of it. So if I were to do a t-shirt, what would you want on it? What should it say? What should we put on a t-shirt? And if we could only choose one color fits all, what would it be? Because I don't want to do a rainbow of colors either. So if you have any t-shirt ideas, let me know. Christy also says, thanks as always for sharing your night with us. And oh, I left my iron on last night too. Oops. All right, Iron Sisters. That's terrific. Don't burn the house down. Robin says, the Scrappy Bargello that you showed on Quilt-Cam is mine. Yay! I thought it was, Robin. That's because you're the only person I know from Elizabeth City who was sewing with me. I made it when I took your class in Lansing. Enjoy Mackinac Island. Wish I could be there. So that's Robin, a North Carolina quilter on the coast from me. Sylvia Waits says, watching Quilt-Cam, my feed is bad and you are blurry, but I'm enjoying it anyway, binding my Aliatare tonight. So if we're blurry, you just need to listen, and that'll help you get more binding done. Good job. Okay. My screen is frozen. Go away. Don't you hate it when pop-ups happen and then they're froze there? Okay. Irene says, under my needle, doing some wool applique while I watch Quilt-Cam. This has been a 3-year UFO, and I'm down to the borders. I was so excited to get the project letter for the Alaskan cruise. That's going to be so fun. See you soon. Oh, Irene, this is beautiful. This is gorgeous. So this is her woolly applique that she's doing. Aren't those blocks just yummy? It's very relaxing to be able to sit and stitch with just needle and thread in the evening, if your eyes aren't too tired by the end of the day. I love that. That looks so textural. I just want to touch all of those little dots that are on there. So if you are on the cruises, I've got to have them send out an addendum as well. If you're on the Alaska cruise in July, the Mediterranean in August, or the Caribbean cruise that is just filling for October, our project is Razzle Dazzle from the May-June issue of Quiltmaker that's out right now. So you'll pick up a copy of that magazine, and then I have a little addendum pattern add-on that as a PDF to send you for what we're doing, along with the class supply list. Now the class supply list basically only listed what kind of pre-cutting and what fabric you need, because I wasn't thinking and I forgot, and machines are provided, but I forgot to tell you. You will need a rotary cutter. You will need an easy angle ruler, a companion angle ruler, scissors, the normal stuff that you would take on retreat. A small mat is helpful for next to your sewing station. I will be sending that notice out. I have to send it in to Craft Tours, and they'll bump it out to everybody if I can remember to do that tomorrow. The machines are provided. You are going to need your own sewing tools. You'll have thread in your machine, but you're going to need, you know, pins, seam ripper, scissors, rotary cutter, the rulers, and a small mat, and anything else that you think that you would need for sewing on the go when you're on retreat. Okay, it's going to be fun. I can't wait. Just can't wait. April says, bringing in extra more leaders in Ender's book. Oh, no, sorry. This is the April. This doesn't belong in this feed. She wants a book at the Grand Hotel, but books have already been sent ahead, so I will answer that later. They just think that I have all this room in my suitcase just to stick in an extra book. I must have had 20 requests for just bring me an extra book. That would have been like 30 pounds worth of books. But they're already sent there. Okay, Andresa says, Andy Ray S. in Minnesota. I have to apologize for how I butcher your name every time because the email says Andresa, which to me says Andresa, but then your email is signed Andy Ray S. So I have no idea. She says, hi, Bonnie and Quilt-Cam, continuing to work on cutting fabrics for a quilt retreat, trying to use your idea of kitting up, so no need to cut while there, just sew and sew and sew. Because I left it late, I'm concentrated on cutting strip widths for the 2 most important projects, and hopefully we'll have time to do the subcutting before I leave. You go, girl. That's absolutely what I would be doing, like with 4 patches. Sew the strip sets at home, do the subcutting, and baggy them up so that they're ready to just feed the 4 patches. You can make much better use of your retreat time if you're not spending it at the ironing board pressing fat quarters and at the cutting table cutting strips. This is all stuff that's easy to do at home. Baggy it up, take it, and then you're ready for a good long weekend of some serious piecing time. I hope you enjoy your retreat. All righty. Cassandra says, yay for Quilt-Cam. This is what I'm doing, walking on my rusty treadmill. No, my trusty treadmill. It's not so bad. I can watch Quilt-Cam. Now, if she had a daughter, her daughter would be looking at her on the treadmill watching Quilt-Cam and really think that she's bonkers. But she's been at it for 18 minutes and 13 seconds when she sent this and had already done like 1.4 miles. You go, girl, because my butt's in the chair. I'm proud of you. Maybe one time we do Quilt-Cam where well, that would be treadling. We would put the Fitbit on the shoe and do that. Good for you. Really proud of you. Ted and Deanna, Quilt-Cam. What a bonus Quilt-Cam tonight. And I get to join in live. I'm 1.5 weeks after having 4 wisdom teeth removed. So needless to say, I'm just taking it easy. So tonight I will be hexie making along with watching what you're up to. Here's a couple of quilts that I just finished while I was resting on the couch. Love following along with you. And this is Deanna. Ooh, that is very cool. So she's got this very mod swirly kind of thing going on there. And I love the backing fabric. That's very fun. I can just imagine all different kinds of fabrics that would look great in. And her other one, here it is. Wow. So she's got, this almost looks like, if I got to biggie size it this way, can it work? There we go. It's kind of a Mila Fiore kind of a thing, but it reminds me a lot of the video games that we had when we were, teenagers? Remember Astro Blasters? I was trying to explain Pong to my son the other day as he was playing some really intricate game online, and I said, well, we had Pong, and it would just go boom, 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 boom. And he looked at me funny. This is really cool. Everything is pieced into these swirling hexagon units that join each other. That is amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Gorgeous. Deanna's from Ontario, Canada. Patricia Gibbs says, this is what I'm working on tonight, your Orange Crush, except it is being done in donated Clemson fabric. This is going to be a Project Linus quilt. Thank you for all you do for your fellow quilters. I can't wait to finish this quilt so I can start another. Isn't that the way it goes? It's always nice to have something just ramping up as one thing gets shoved off the plate. She says, I'm doing the blue challenge as my leaders and enders. Oh, those are going to look great. So here's the two blocks from Orange Crush next to each other for this charity quilt out of donated Clemson fabric. You know, when you live in South Carolina, you either bleed crimson and black for the Gamecocks, or you bleed orange and black for Clemson. And if you live in Columbia, where we did for about 5 years, you really feel this rivalry going on. And it's a friendly rivalry. But there would be, like, you walk through our neighborhood, and here in this cul-de-sac, everybody's rooting for Clemson, and they've got their tent up and the barbecue going and everything. And then you walk around the corner, and here's all of the Gamecocks people over here with their tailgate party on and everything. Moving to South Carolina, moving to Columbia was so fun, just for the school spirit and how everybody got involved in everything. I loved it. So thank you for sharing your Clemson quilt. I am sure that whoever gets it either will love it immediately or will become a Clemson fan. That is just adorable. Just adorable. All righty, let's do this. I chat so much, sometimes I don't get anything sewn. So I'm so interested in doing the color challenge of the week, the scrappy, just pick something of that color and sew it, whatever it is. Even if you just made 9 patches in that one color that week, and then the next week you did 9 patches in the other colorway, and then the next week you'd have all of these rainbow colors of 9 patches that you could decide to set however you want. So there's no pattern for it. It's just an idea for, like, hey, pull out some blue scraps and make something. So that's what this week is about. Next week will be another color, and that will happen on Sunday. I won't know what that is until that's released. So it's kind of bugging me because I'll still be at the Grand Hotel, and I likely won't have that project with me, which means I'm going to have to skip that week. But I'll still let you know what the color of the week is. So if you want to do it, you can play along. And I'll be trying to play catch up. Maybe I'll be a week behind. Okay. Alrighty, and this one, the magic is about to happen. 2 the same, 1 comes around to be the bottom half. And the seams all nest. That's when it's magic. And sometimes it's not possible. Sometimes no matter what you do, it's not possible. And it might be possible in the block, but then when you go to put blocks together, it's not. So we just do the best we can. I'm liking this. That blue in there is just really cute. Just cute. Okay. But if you make 2 halves identical, it's really easy to not get your pieces out of order, and then you just rotate the second half. Okay, so here's this block. This is just a very sweet little florally one, little green stripe in the center. Very cute. Okay, what time do we have here? Getting there. I think we can lay out one more. There's this really fun pink fabric. Let it be said that I never buy fabric with metallic on it. But if it's gifted to me, I'll sew it up, and I don't care where it lands. Everything's better with a little bit of bling, right? I know some people who say, oh no, you'll never catch me sewing with that. It's like, it's fabric, sew it in there. Okay, so what color would go good in that? I'm kind of on a green kick tonight. I just like playing match game. So some other things that are going on. I leave Thursday, but watch the blog for Thursday morning's post, because the newest Quilt Maker 100 Blocks by 100 Designers, I believe it's volume 13, is out, and the blog hop started this week. And my day is the 5th, Thursday. So you'll get to see my block, which I'm really excited about. Remember when I said, oh, I will just sew everything strings if I could just keep sewing strings? Well, it's got strings. So you'll want to check that out. I'll be having a giveaway. And so we'll run a giveaway on that. One of the winners will get a copy from Quilt Maker, and then there'll be a couple other winners that will get copies and other goodies from me. Now that was weird. What happened there? I think I had a piece that was a little short, or the seam got big. Yeah. There's a way to fix that. It's to fix it in this seam. That 1/4 inch seam can be a mile wide if you need it to be. You have enough room to shift some things and let some things fall just a little bit short if something comes out not right. This is what happens when you try to sew when watching the camera light. The little green light on my laptop said, look here, this is where your audience is. Look at this green light. Okay. Yeah. So here we are, another one in our parade. So we did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with number 6 in the machine tonight. And I know I would have gotten more done if I weren't chatting too, but the chatting is the best part. I love sewing along with you. Try to think of when we can do this again. When I get back from Mackinac, I think I have a few days before I go to the cabin for the weekend, I think. But we'll have to gauge that and see. I haven't looked that far ahead on my calendar, but now that we know that yes, the sound does work, we'll be good for our next go round. Here's one from Sarah who says Quilt-Cam with an exclamation point. So glad to be able to join you live for Quilt-Cam tonight. I'm actually spinning at my wheel this evening, some alpaca wool blend, and because I'm a multi-crafter that way. Thought you might enjoy seeing a recent finish of mine. This is a true scrap quilt with many fabrics coming from my past dressmaking adventures. I love that. So this is Sarah in Northwest Missouri. And ooh, she's got the blues and the greens going on. I love that. So this is right up our scrappy week of using up the blues. That is just beautiful, Sarah. I love it. When I was writing the directions or the application form for sending in the Quilt of Valor, they said, you know, tell us something interesting about your quilt. And I was explaining there in the writing that I have represented all of my decades of sewing, not just quilting, of sewing with fabric pieces in that quilt. So in the reds, especially in the red checkerboards in here, I started sewing when I was 10. My mom got me sewing, making my clothes. By the time I was in junior high, I was making more clothes. By the time I was in high school, I was making 3-piece leisure suits for myself, you know, with a fitted vest and the buttons and little points on the vest and a little jacket. So I have loved fabric forever. So there's here's a 1970s to represent my early sewing. There's some 1980s, some 1990s. There's some Y2K fabric in here. There's pieces of fabric from every decade of my life as a quilter in here. And I hope that whoever gets this quilt appreciates that, because it really is a piece of my history in here. So you've included a piece of your history by including your dressmaking scraps in your quilt. And I think that's part of who you are. I think that's just a wonderful thing. Let's do one more here. This one is from Toasty's Quilting Tidbits. She says, when we built my sewing room, my husband is so concerned about safety that when the electric was set up, he had it so when I turn off the lights, it cut power to everything. He was afraid I would leave the iron on. And it has a big old smiley face. So you can go tell your hubby exactly that Bonnie left the iron on for 5 days. 5 days. She's from the Liquid Sunshine State of Washington. That's Mary Kay. So I'm really grateful that this worked tonight pretty much without a hitch. Though we were slow at the beginning, I could tell that there were little blurbs where my words were not in time with the way my mouth was moving on the screen. Probably due to the storm. Whatever happened, it seems to have cleared itself up. We've had sound, we've had a good time, we've had good chat. You've had wonderful show and share for me, and I'm so grateful for that. I'm grateful for all of you and the time that you took to tune in tonight. I will let you know when we can do this again, and hopefully it won't be too far down the road, but be watching on Thursday for that giveaway for the Quiltmakers 100 blocks. I think you're going to like my block. It's going to be a fun one to play with. If it's still early where you are, don't stop now. See if you can push yourself another half hour, another hour, make some more progress. You'll look at it in the morning and smile and be so glad that you did. As for me, I turn into a pumpkin at 10:30, so it's time for me to sign off and say goodnight, everybody. Until next time, this is Bonnie from the basement at Quiltville. See you later. Bye-bye.